Hello, welcome, and welcome to another social media update. And wow, hasn't there been a lot that's happened? Not just the last month, but the last week has been rather busy alone. I think you all know what I'm referencing there. But yes, good morning, Luann. How are you?
Good morning. Yeah, and what I loved about this week, Andrew, is I think you'd literally just sent me going, here's the updated slide deck, and we'd finished it, and then it was like, no, we haven't. Big news. It's always in an evening as well, isn't it? Because it's coming from the States. So yeah, I'm good, but it's been a busy week making updates.
Yeah, no switching off for these people that put these social media updates together, that's for sure. But as per usual, you know the drill. Light up the chat as you already are. So say where you're joining from. Hey Jade, hey Alan, Sarah, Angel, lovely name. So there we go. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you always for making this such a welcoming, wonderful session. Chuck your questions in. We're all social media fans here, so likely you'll be able to help each other out and feel free to connect, etc. So without further ado, you know the drill by now, so let's jump straight into it.
I have moved my desk. I was looking at this wall, and I'm now looking at a different wall. So yes, good spot.
I love that. I absolutely adore that. We must be doing too many of these. Has moved. 10 points for that.
Yeah.
Even I didn't even realise that when I speak to you every week, Luann, but
yeah.
Never mind. Right, I think everyone knows who we are, but Luann, do you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, good morning. I'm in the Cotswolds, and actually the reason I had to move my desk was a really big problem because the light has changed, so that's why I had to change my direction. So I may go back to the wall for winter. I'm based in the Cotswolds. I'm a marketing consultant specialising in social media, and I have a really lovely mixture of working directly with clients from higher education, household cleaning products, law firms, manufacturers, through to doing lots of teaching and training as well. I work with LinkedIn as one of their online course instructors and Facebook as one of their lead trainers as well. So social media updates is my everyday world.
Amazing. And I think you know who I am. And yes, as you'll notice from the slide deck and my free hoodie, I now belong to Adobe. So after founding Content Cal and that getting bought by Adobe, and now I'm part of the fold. So yeah, exciting new chapter. Talking about new chapters, or not so much new anymore, but want to kind of call this out as well because this site, you've done a fabulous job on that, Luann. So do you want to call this out quickly before we dive into things?
Yeah, so this is my website. It's called The Lighthouse Social. I've talked about it before. It launched September last year and is really a curation of all the updates that happen throughout the week. So I'm adding updates in there that come through from Social Media Today, from TechCrunch, from The Verge, Mashable, the newsrooms themselves, keeping that up to date as a news source on a 2 or 3 times a week basis with a weekly newsletter. But also in there is tabs for data and insights resources. So I've collated all the apps I use, all the websites I use for insights, all the books that I recommend. Good couple of books in there, Andy. Training resources, and there is also a social media jobs board on there as well. So everything for the social media manager on one website.
Awesome. So basically, if you can't get enough of seeing me on LinkedIn or doing these every single month, you can basically get your fill of social media updates through this site as well. And there's a slight change in, more flexibility coming your way in terms of consuming some of these updates. Do you want to talk through this social summit?
Yeah, so I think some of you, I recognise names in the chat already, know that I ran my first one-day social summit on the 24th of March, of which Andy was one of the speakers. It was a full-day free event for social media topics, and I'm going to do it again on the 30th of June. So far, it will be Andy and I doing our social media updates, and I've also already got a couple of speakers confirmed. Helen Reynolds, you may have come across, she's going to do a session on how to respond to social media comments, positive, negative, controversial. And we will also be having a session on accessibility best practices for social media. So sign up for that. It's a free one-day event on the 30th of June, which is also Social Media Day.
Indeed it is. So so slight change in the format. So likely Luann and I will be doing these updates together every quarter, and then I'll still continue to do these every month, of which there'll be some new links shared to that in an email after this anyway. So lots of social media updates and basically making it incredibly flexible for for how you want to consume your news at whatever frequency. But anyway, let's continue with the normal monthly update. 3 things as per usual: trends, data, then feature updates. As per usual, my caveat is like lots of updates, lots of changes, but fundamentally don't feel you need to take an action on all of these, but basically feel empowered with the knowledge so that you can, if you want to, make any tweaks, changes, optimizations to your strategy. But we don't need to do everything or be everywhere. We know that focusing is always the name of the game, both on anything we apply to our marketing initiatives. Focus is always the thing that helps us win. So let's look at some trends. The last thing everyone needed, right, is a new social media platform that's gathering traction. But whilst we see a few of these bubbling away all the time, there's sometimes a bit of a breakout one. Obviously, Clubhouse was the last one. This next one is called BeReal. Interested to know whether anyone's actually heard of this to this point. And basically, this is calling on two principles that really govern, well, one governs social media and one governs behavioral science. So 2 parts of it. First, authenticity is what this app is built upon. So essentially, you've only got 2 minutes once a day to share the update. So you get a ping on your app and it says, take a photo, video for whatever you're doing in this given moment. So you don't have time to put on your ring light or do your makeup or whatever. You've just got to post. And your friends do the same thing. So it's a real life snapshot of what everyone's up to at that given time. So that is really about authenticity, as the name suggests. BeReal. It's founded in France. It seems to be gaining quite a bit of traction in Europe. And I think the thing that's really giving it a lot of traction, a lot of impetus, is the psychological phenomenon known as scarcity, that will typically want to do things more when we have less availability of it. So that was the thing that drove Wordle's growth, right? So you only could do one Wordle puzzle every day. Same thing with BeReal. You only get a chance to use it once a day. So that, as a result, is driving some substantial growth for this application. Doesn't mean we all need to be on it. I have no idea how we would harness it from a marketing perspective, but definitely worth us being aware of. And certainly when you're talking about these traits of authenticity and scarcity, it's quite interesting to see how powerful they are when we're talking about social media. Any comments on this, Joanne?
Yeah, I think sometimes we get excited about new things. Sometimes we just have a big sigh, don't we? Go, oh, something else we need to think about. I think it's always something to watch, whether you're an early adopter and like to jump straight in, or whether you like to watch and see what's happening for a bit. Take your own stance on it. What I'm reading is that, BeReal is being really focused at Gen Z. So it is the universities, younger audiences who are already really busy on TikTok and Instagram. For me, it's going to be, how quickly does it get adopted? What are people doing? But how soon are the platforms that are already in existence going to take these features and incorporate it, which is what happened with Clubhouse, where we got to with audio rooms and Twitter Spaces. So there's kind of 2 areas to watch, isn't it? The new app, and then what do the others do? And as soon as they start seeing that it's taking off, we know that we should probably be using it or looking at how these features work.
Yeah, I think this is a keep your eye on it kind of mode at the moment, and you might want to try and play about with it. But yeah, don't need to take it too seriously right now. But yeah, it's certainly broken through. Saw some interesting data on user-generated content, UGC, particularly related to ads. So this is from a website called Business of Apps, which is always a good one to look at for data points. So UGC ads now perform conventional ads by the same topic of 20 to 50%. So I think we all could have expected this, right? So it's nice to see some data that underpins that. Ultimately, real life use of a product or service or whatever, and representing those individuals that are actual users of said product naturally seems more trustworthy, seems more authentic, going back to that point again. So as a result, drives better effectiveness because it's all built around trust. Similarly with UGC videos, delivering 12 times engagement over other advertising types. So, I mean, to be honest, if you spend any time on TikTok looking at the advertising that happens on TikTok, it's all built around UGC and it generates incredible engagement in itself. It doesn't feel like an ad. And that's, I think, when you look at like platforms like TikTok and the advertising content that's happening on that versus your typical ads on Facebook, it's a world of difference apart. And I think that's creating a new paradigm for those that want to run social ads, because they don't feel like ads, they feel like content in a feed. As a result, clearly the decreasing effectiveness, however, of ads is as a result of advertisers clearly not being plugged in enough to the culture of what's happening in social. So as a result, advertisers are shortcutting this by actually not running ads at all and just focusing on building those relationships with creators directly. And hence the reason you've seen creator marketplaces spin up on TikTok, on Instagram, etc., because brands know that they don't have the ability, and neither do their agencies have the ability, to create content that truly feels native, create ad content that truly feels native. So they're kind of turning their attention to creators increasingly. So I don't know if you've got any other takes on that, Luann.
The words I wrote down when looking at this were trust. This is why people like user-generated content. It's around trust. Yes, we're seeing this creator word again, and we'll see it throughout today's session as we have previous ones, and the importance of that. I also think there's something in this UGC around, particularly if we think back to Be Real as something new, and we've talked about TikTok, is our audiences, and marketing teams are not always representative of our audiences to be doing the face to camera and the demos and things like that. So we do need our students, our user generated, our customers to be creating that content, because they are the audience. That's who people are resonating with. And as marketing teams, we can't be as controlled or use our own teams for that. We have to use our customers that people are going to resonate with.
Yeah, that's such a powerful point. Yeah, great point, Luann. Snapchat growing faster than the other social platforms is what it says. Basically, this daily active user number, they're now 30% bigger than Twitter. So daily active users growing another 18% year over year, actually puts them as the fastest growing social platform in percentile terms. So yeah, well, I say this pretty much every month, that Snapchat seems to be forgotten a little bit, although it is worthwhile saying that their demographic is very much in the 13 to 18-year-old. So it isn't necessarily suitable for everyone, but clearly it's gained incredible traction. And the fact that these are daily active users, that is a significant metric. And there aren't many social platforms that are brave enough to represent their audience in daily active user numbers, because monthly is always going to look much bigger. So yeah, Snapchat, not one to forget about, that's for sure. One that we won't forget about because we can't stop talking about them. So TikTok have topped the download charts yet again, no surprises here, but they're also topping the monetization charts. And I found this particularly staggering, to be honest. When you're looking at the growth of how much money is being spent through TikTok, this is exclusive of ads. And this is the bit that blew my mind. In the last 3 months, $840 million has been spent just through consumers of content tipping creators. So TikTok have their own currency known as coins. You basically buy them with real money and you get a set amount of coins. You can use those coins to promote your own content and boost your posts. In fact, just as a personal narrative, that's been super effective in me growing my own TikTok. So that's been super powerful, basically like post boosting. And the other element of it has been just for the consumers of content's own volition, just tipping those creators. I think that's a really nice change of mentality, that content doesn't always need to be free, and people are showing their appreciation by actually, spending money with those individuals, even though when they don't have to. And that is the power of creators and the power of like the creator economy, if you will. Yeah, and I found that number particularly staggering. I don't know if you've got any other thoughts or narrative on this, Luann.
I'm staggered by that number as well, and just how people are using it. And when you look at your content to see just how hard creators are working at it as well. I think they're working harder on TikToks than they are on content on other platforms. So I'm pleased, but yeah, I was surprised, and it will be interesting to see how that grows over time as well, particularly as people become aware of it.
Definitely. And the dynamic really that's gonna lead, when you look at the growth of these platforms, it's going to mean more creators come to that platform because they know they can make more money of it, because there's some challenges that Instagram face with getting creators paid for the Reels content they're creating. So naturally creators will gravitate to the platforms that will yield the highest revenue. And then currently that's TikTok. So that's going to continue to drive growth. When more creators come to a platform, more consumers of content come as a result. And that then presents us as brands more opportunities to have creator-led campaigns that we were talking about just a couple of slides ago. So yeah, good opportunity here. And the thing that represents incredible opportunity, and this helps us understand why organic reach is still so strong on TikTok, because quite frankly, there's 4 times the amount of opportunity for content to be seen in TikTok, right? When you look at TikTok's average user consumption per month, so we've already said these numbers in previous charts, but we never often put them in context against other platforms as well. So when you look at Instagram of basically, nearly 8 hours, yeah, it's only 25% of what TikTok is. So as a result, with more people spending more time on the platform, that gives more chance for content to be seen. As a result, it stands to reason that organic reach of your content is much stronger. So we can't see the TikTok engagement and generous organic reach going away anytime soon. Instagram, is flatlining a little bit, and as a result, that hence the reason with more people coming to Instagram as a platform. For that reason, that's why we're seeing like our organic reach and growth kind of stagnate a little bit. I'm not saying we all need to move away from Instagram, don't get me wrong at all, but as a result, when you look at numbers like this, it helps you understand how reach is impacted.
Yeah, and that one was interesting because we've got some stat. We haven't got the specific stat, but the quarterly update from Hootsuite, We Are Global. There was a slide in there when I was digesting the 300 slides around not just. There was a slide in there that wasn't just monthly active users and the size of the platforms. There was a great slide in there around people's favorite platforms. Now, how you define your favorite platform, whether that's because you find it more engaging or because you get more business from it or you just find it easiest to use. We don't know how people define favorite, but at the top of the charts on favorite was WhatsApp and then Instagram, I think. Yet the time spent on this other, this chart with TikTok being significantly higher, yet didn't in another piece of research rate as a favorite. I think it's looking at all this data and trying to understand the context of how it's being collected, and then what does it mean to you and your business? What do we need to do to be on the platforms where our audiences are, that get the results that we're looking for, where they're searching, what they're trying to do, and then where we're getting engagement as well. And we've got to kind of piece all of this stuff together. But the difference between these numbers is just huge. And I think the question is, this is global data.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And as a result, given current trajectory, it looks like TikTok's going to have 25% of the social media market share by 2024, which is, it is substantial. And it's for that reason that, like I've said this a few times on previous updates, that we'd be remiss to ignore it at this point, because clearly it's not going away and it's going to be increasingly sizable. So that's our kind of takeaway from that. Luann, you've already referenced some of the updates from the Hootsuite We Are Social report. I'm just going to call out a couple of things out of the 300 slides, because the updates aren't massively different from what we reported in January. 4.65 billion is the total number of social media users, which is essentially 59% of the world's population. Year over year, 7.5% change. That's a percentile growth change and a downward trend. But I expect to see this growth of social media overall start to slow down now, because we're reaching a point of saturation. The global internet users are not much higher than 4.65 billion. So we're pretty much reaching peak social media, where it is nearly ubiquitous to anyone that has access to either a mobile device or the internet is on social. So we're getting to that point of complete adoption, which is just staggering. One other thing I did take out of this report that I thought was quite interesting, that it's worthwhile calling out. It's quite a stat-laden slide, so I apologize. But this stat, and I'm going to focus on these first 3 columns here, because they're the ones that are most relevant when we're looking at social media for business. Users were interviewed as part of this study as to what is the primary purpose you go to this social media platform for. So if we look at the first 3, which is about going for funny or entertainment content, or following or researching brands and products, or keeping up to date with news and current events. So let's look at those 3. And the numbers that are highlighted in bold in orange, they are the platforms that typically major on that as a category, why people go to those platforms for that. So funny, entertaining content. We've said this before, Reddit and TikTok. TikTok, the fact that, that is the main reason people go there, for entertainment value. That obviously creates a new standard for us as brands, and increasingly increases the impetus for us to work with creators that can create culturally relevant and as a result, entertaining content. Brands and products. Instagram is still very strong for this, right? So there's a huge proportion of individuals that will go to Instagram for this. So, it's good to see how highly that ranks for there. But in terms of overall usage of Pinterest, that's the thing that comes out on top. I think we've said this before, 90% of all searches on this platform being Pinterest, are brand orientated. So clearly, good intent on that as a platform. And up to date with news and current events. LinkedIn and Twitter, that's the kind of primary purpose there. And I would back that from my own experience of the platforms too. So rather than going through all the data, they're the kind of things that I would take away from that, unless there's anything else you'd like to add, Luann.
I was surprised by Reddit coming up under funny or entertaining content. Maybe that's just the context for Reddit users and the content that they're reading on the forums and how entertaining they find it. Twitter, it'll be interesting to see. We're coming up to the news of how the numbers for Twitter change over the rest of this year. I would, as this has done, put that top for news and current events, but I think we're going to see a shift around in some of these numbers over the next few months.
Yeah, indeed.
The final column where Instagram is top, I think that's post or sharing photos or videos.
Yeah, so I kind of didn't bother going through those because quite kind of generic use, to be honest. So I'm going to fly through the next piece of data, so then we can get into the updates. So firstly, let's look at hashtags, because there's been a lot of backwards and forwards on hashtags. Instagram came out and said they don't increase reach. That was what they said. So actually, the good people at Social Insider took the opportunity to go through 75 million posts and see whether the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, who basically came out and said hashtags are kind of pointless if you want to just grow reach. It only works for, helping to organize your content and improve a bit of discovery. Anyway, so they looked at that, and they looked at engagement rate relative to the amount of hashtags that you include in the post. Typically, I mean, there isn't massive difference, to be honest. If we look at overall engagement rate, marginally 3 to 4 hashtags per post came out on top. Interestingly, because then they cross-reference this against the size of account, because naturally the larger accounts don't need to stuff as many hashtags into their posts as the smaller ones. But really, the data still kind of stayed fairly consistent, although 5 to 6 tended to be the number of choice for those with smaller accounts. So you'll still need a larger number of hashtags if you're below 10,000 followers versus if you're an account that's of large size, where the reliance on hashtags just diminishes. And you can see reach decreasing as a result, and then engagement rate as a result decreasing. So the correct number seems to be somewhere between 3 to 6, really. Well-researched, relevant hashtags. That seems to be the guidance. I've seen a lot of conflicting evidence on this, but this data is probably the most significant I've seen in terms of the volume of posts that have been analyzed. So it does look quite significant here. And that's actually probably a bit of a sigh of relief for many marketers, where you don't have to suddenly put 25 hashtags and research all those 25 hashtags and pop them into your posts. Actually, we just need to be focusing on the ones that really zero in on our target audience. Best times to post. Right, so the latest data out from Sprout Social came out last week on this. The times are in Central Standard Time, so would need to be adjusted accordingly as well. And my main caveat to this, I'm probably stealing Luann's thunder here, because Luann always says this point, which is like, this is good guidance. Like, if you don't have any other kind of reference points, it's good to see, but fundamentally your own audience and the nuances of your own accounts, that's the data you should trust more than anything. It's your own data. But if we don't have any of that right now, you're kind of new to this, then this is good guidance. But the nice thing is seems to be some very consistent rules at play here. Is that weekdays seem to be the best across all platforms. Facebook is 9 to 12. Instagram, once again, in the weekdays, a slight skew slightly earlier in the morning for Insta. Once again, we still need to make those adjustments for UK time or wherever we are in the world. Once again, mornings on Twitter, basically exactly the same engagement graph as Facebook. It's quite nice to consider that, is that our Facebook and Twitter engagement pretty much mirrors each other. LinkedIn's the only one that's a little bit different. There is a wider engagement graph across, once again, the weekdays, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So actually, there's more engagement that's possible throughout the day, which is also endemic of better organic reach that we get as standard on LinkedIn. And this applies to LinkedIn, and it does apply marginally to the other platforms where so later midweek tends to be the better time to post, the Wednesdays and the Thursdays. And then usage demographics. This is the last bit of data before we go into the feature updates. And there's a couple of call outs here. And I think this is probably one of my favorite slides here, because I always love looking at the demographic stuff and often get questions relative to this. Once again, the usual narrative that I talk about is, YouTube's dominance across all of these demographics and how well balanced it is in terms of reaching multiple demographics. It's a really strong contender to have as part of our strategy, just for the broader reach it has across audiences. Now, you'll see some networks increase in importance the older the demographic you go. So Facebook is one of those. I think we all knew that anyway, but it's nice to see how they cross over, go up and down. Instagram, once again, kind of, goes down a little bit, up slightly into the 65 and older camp, which is interesting. And you can see LinkedIn increase when you go into the 30 to 64 camp. There's quite a number of things as well. You see Pinterest very much increases in importance in that older demographic too. So you'll see quite a few crossovers here. So definitely worthwhile considering these platforms, considering your audience, considering also the influential elements of your audience, because it's not always the target buyer necessarily that you want to influence. So lots to consider here, but at least this gives you a nice balanced look at thinking about what platforms you're on today and how you might want to tweak that moving forward. So, Luann, let's go through some feature updates, right?
Okay, so Meta, Facebook first. There is some core themes to today's updates, and Andy and I will talk about how these core themes have been through the last sessions as well. So I don't think there's going to be any big surprises in our updates today, but as we've said before, this is what we're doing is letting you know what's been happening in the world in the last month. Monetization, metaverse, that is what Zuckerberg is all about. I think it was last night he shared his latest town hall quarterly update on his own Facebook post. Follow him, have a read. He's always sharing what's going on, but for him, he's very much focused on community building and AI, metaverse, getting those monetization areas in. Twitter. Something happening with Twitter at the moment. Yes, we've put it first. It was announced. It's been talked about for a few weeks now. Announced on Monday evening the intention for Elon Musk to buy Twitter for $44 billion. I know that you posted, within an hour, Andy. It's always fascinating to watch what people are posting, what their opinions are. I don't need to share them. I think it just means there is something big to watch. What it's going to mean for the platform. I've seen some articles around, yes, he's about free speech, but obviously there is online safety bills and things that he needs to work within. The biggest question, apparently Donald Trump is not going to return, even though it's about free speech. I think it's one to watch. But what I will say is that there has been some amazing social media posts this week, the ones I've seen of, what you could have bought with $44 billion, how many pairs of glasses you could have bought from Specsavers, or how many Domino's pizzas you could buy, and you could get even more if it was 2 for Tuesday. So the reaction from creators has been brilliant around this.
Definitely. The only thing I'll add here is that the deal doesn't close until October, so there will be don't expect massive changes, right? That'll be probably into next year. The changes will come. So I don't think we need to change anything right now, because Twitter's on complete technical lockdown now anyway. So yeah, we don't need to worry from a short-term perspective, but long-term, yes, this will have some massive impact.
Yeah. Twitter professional accounts are now available to all. This is a switch that you can make. This is a bit like switching your Instagram profile to a business account. It's a setting. You can go in and do it. I did this, I think, at the end of last year. There's a couple of extra fields that allows you to add to your profile. I think you can move your website address and declare what account type it is. Haven't seen any other additional features or results as a result of making that change to my account, but I'm sure that they've got plans to do something with it at some point.
Yeah, probably worthwhile doing though, I expect.
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah, for creators or businesses.
Elon Musk started this off with a tweet, didn't he? Are we going to get an edit button? This is the big question that's been bandied around for many years, and Jack Dorsey, founder, always said no, it was never going to happen. But we can see that it's happening in tests. They're talking about it. I think there is some restrictions around what you can actually edit or whether it's going to be marked as an edit, because it was always about, not changing history or changing the news, but it looks like we're going to get it. So if you're ever going to make a typo, it's immediately you've pressed send on a tweet, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
New notifications for Twitter Spaces. I can see that in the chat, someone's just said, does that mean no more development? We don't know. We don't work for Twitter. It's just our understanding that, as Andy said, the buyout's got to go through and things. So we report on the changes as they happen. Twitter Spaces has been a big area for development over the past 18 months, I think. Now there's easier notifications. So it's a lot easier to get involved in Twitter Spaces now. Launching Quick Promote. This is an interesting one, isn't it? Because one of the fallouts from this week I've seen is, what are advertisers going to do on this platform? Just after earlier this month, they launched a Quick Promote option for advertising. So it's just what the other platforms have done, isn't it, with their boosting?
Yeah, exactly.
LinkedIn have made some changes. They always come in batches from LinkedIn. I think these were coming out just as we did the update last month. This is about your personal profile and getting more insights into what's happening with people looking at your personal profile and data around the content that you post. I believe that to get these additional level of insights and data, that you need to have switched to a creator account. That switch to a creator account is a switch. There's a couple of things that it means happens. That your default changes from connect to follow. Follow is one way. Connect is reciprocal, the exchange of business cards. You can still connect. There's always 3 buttons on someone's profile to do the connection. So don't think that it's just a one-way following from here on in. With a creator account, you also may see at the top of people's profiles talking about and hashtags, and you can kind of highlight the topics that you talk about, which is great for thought leadership and talking about what people can expect from following and connecting with you. And so that unlocks this additional insight into who's viewing your profile, who's looking at your content, locations and data. And for me, these are always triggers to have conversations. If someone looks at my profile, it's quite likely at some point they'll get a message from me going, hi, so you had a look at my profile recently, something I can help you with. So it's all part of kind of building and nurturing networks that is a real value add from this. Yeah. Insight into profile performance, what's happening, how many profile views are you getting, the demographics of people engaging with you. So you can see if you're hitting the right people or not. Nice transitions. Some discovery engagements as well. So actually you're getting a breakdown on the engagements now, whether it's likes, reactions, comments and shares. No, it's not only if it's a paid for account. This is if you switch it to a creator account, which I believe is available still as a free version. The paid for account gives you more visibility of who's viewed your profile, gives you access to LinkedIn Learning, gives you more search criteria, but not a huge factor. Any downside to creator account? I haven't seen a significant difference. I've had a creator account for quite a long time. I was part of beta testing. I would say there's an upside to having follower as a default, in that I've got a significantly bigger network now that I don't have to connect with everyone, and that more people see my content. So I have a lower number of connections, the reciprocal, and a higher number of followers. So my content is being seen by more people than the content that I have to feed through in my own news feed.
I'd agree with that. I think my follower growth has been quicker than connection growth.
Yeah,
for sure. The only thing is that it's actually quite hard to track follower growth, and then unless you actually look at your analytics, because unlike connection requests, you can see a whole heap of them coming in and you accept, etc. But yeah, at least this way, it's kind of, you can't really see as well who is connecting with you and who is following you, right? So you don't see those demographics as well as if you're like accepting those connections. But the growth is much quicker. And just to call out just this third screenshot here where I'm hovering. I think for me, that's probably the most important bit here, which is the post level analytics are much better now on creator accounts, because now we can see, we've already always had post analytics, but now we can go back a year and now we can see specifically the type of people that have engaged with that post specifically. So this really helps us like learn about what content worked well and repurpose that or do more of the same into our next week or next month's content. Anyway, back to you, Lauren.
Thank you. I'm just going to answer a couple of the questions while we're on it. Are there stats on a business profile? Yes, within company page, you have a fair amount of analytics already. So you just need to be an admin on your company page to access those. I don't believe that creator mode is part of a premium account. It's not. So have a look. Go and have a look at it. LinkedIn have added new prompts for cover videos. This is something they introduced a while ago, wasn't it? That you can create a cover video for your profile. So if someone looks at your profile, instead of just seeing a static photo of you, you can see someone kind of introducing themselves. I think that's quite useful. I think it's also particularly useful if you are having more focus on accessibility on your social media activity as well. Not everyone, it's moving content, isn't it? So videos are worth doing. Haven't done mine yet, but I will.
I'm the same.
Having an ability to feature your newsletter. So this is part of Creator as well. That newsletters were in beta testing for a long time. Not everyone had access to them. You probably saw that there was a big flurry of people creating newsletters. With this switch, you can now feature your newsletter on your profile. But to be honest, you could always do that anyway with the 3 dots to pin it to the top of your profile. So it's just a slightly different way of doing things now that they've embedded it within a creator account.
Yeah, interested to know if anyone on this session now has started to see any success with newsletters, etc. Do you run one, Luann?
I don't run one for myself, but I do run them for clients and have done one very early on, probably about 18 months ago. It was more of a monthly roundup. I do think there's value in them. The reason that I haven't personally done one and switched to them is because I've got an email database of a list and I have the emails, whereas you don't get the subscribers of your newsletter. So I think there needs to be quite a conscious decision as to why you would do this versus something else. But now that newsletters have been added to company pages as a feature, I am working with some clients to do a company page newsletter roundup, because I think that is a good option. It wasn't always relevant for someone to do a newsletter from their personal profile.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah, make sure that you are following Adam Mosseri on Instagram, because he keeps going live and he keeps talking about what the changes are to the platform. And again, talking about creators, really focused. This latest one was about wanting more original content. So almost Instagram have announced that they will downplay sharing of content that is repost, that is shared. They are focusing on the creators that are producing original content. That's what they want to see on their platform. This is a nice one. We've seen actually the platforms across the board supporting fundraising, supporting charities more and more. But this was a nice one. I think it's about 30 different causes now that Instagram is improving their support for them. So if you are working in the not-for-profit sector, make sure that you have checked out on the platforms how you can support your fundraising. Story highlights, stories, insights, we love a bit of extra data. I'm not actually sure, Andy, if you know what is in addition, even though they've said we've improved the insights, but I wasn't sure what the additional data was from what we were seeing before on the app.
Yeah, so it was mostly, they've improved this overview of a bit more detail, and specifically these accounts reached, followers versus non-followers. And also accounts engaged here. So those pie charts are the ones that have recently been added, so that we can see through our stories how we're extending our reach beyond our current follower base, ultimately.
Great. Testing. So we don't always talk about testing, but sometimes we know that testing is happening and it is going to be rolling out. This change to hashtag page is about the recent tab, and that some users are no longer seeing recently used hashtags. They're only seeing the top hashtags and reels on that page. So bit of a small change. It depends how much you look at this, how much you use it for your own research and insights, but I'm not sure whether they'll roll this out or whether it's a big one.
Well, I think the kind of underlying thing here, as I take it, is that in line with Instagram's algorithm changes to focus more on original content and less on repurposed content. When I say repurposed, yeah, it's basically like using TikToks for reels, which we knew, is a no-no. And they're trying to stop that. But also in the way that many people like to trend jack by looking at a trending hashtag, looking at what's been posted recently, and then reusing and repurposing that stuff to try and jump on a trend. Instagram are actively trying to stop that being the case because they want more original content on the platform. And also removing one of these tabs focuses more on reels because they want more people to look at reels, remix a reel, and basically spend their lives doing reels. But yeah, we knew that was the case.
Yeah.
If reels.
Talking of reels, they're making it easier to edit reels, which is always a good thing, isn't it? Making life easier. And I now believe it's probably easier to edit a reel than it is to edit a TikTok. How it works, you can have a look if you're producing those, but they're making it easier to do.
Yeah, the barriers are definitely coming down for like video production, which is a huge thing, because I thought that was the thing that was stopping many businesses from getting active on short form video. But these editing tools, both on Reels and TikTok, are improving dramatically, making it much easier.
And they're monetizing them, back to that theme of monetizing tools for Instagram Reels. You may see these pop-ups, you may see the opportunity to advertise. It was inevitable, really.
Yeah, definitely. Right then, final 5 minutes.
Yes.
Other platforms. So GIFs come to TikTok. Our favorite Giphy integration is now live, which just adds a whole another level of creativity to our TikToks. So that is a really powerful tool, very fun to use as well. Like with anything TikTok do, when they bring things in, they just create it in such a new, entertaining and interesting way. So I definitely recommend playing around with that. Talking something to play around with, which does seem a little bit, I wouldn't suggest everyone jumps on this right now, but one of the things that we're seeing increasingly happen in TikTok or on TikTok is augmented reality. Basically, not just putting funny faces and filters on people, which was popularized by Snapchat, but also brands getting involved with these augmented try-on stuff. So trying on hats, glasses, that kind of stuff, right? And that seems a world away from what brands can actually execute on, unless you've got like agencies and big teams, etc. But with the launch of this Effect House, it's really lowering the barriers of entry to adding augmented reality to your content. I wouldn't suggest that everyone needs to just fall over themselves to get this done right now, but it's certainly something worthwhile playing around with, because you can see increasingly this will be the direction of travel for social, because it's going to become more interactive as capabilities and technology increases. It's going to be social content is going to be less passive and more participatory, right? So it's going to be less about here's a video of me or here's a photo of something, towards more people being able to interact with content, whether that interaction is going to be driven through a duet or a stitch or a remix, or whether it's going to be driven through someone interacting with augmented reality. You can see the direction of travel. Like I said, we don't need to do this now, but we definitely worthwhile thinking about it. But this basically creates like a drag and drop approach to creating an augmented reality AR filter. So yes, quite a fun thing to play around with if you've got 10 minutes free and you're having a coffee. Quite interesting. Talking about that level of interactivity and the level of engagement, once again, TikTok are kind of like showing the rest of the social platforms how it's done with these new interactive ads. Rather than just saying a static ad with a call to action, here users can interact on the ad. So as you can see here in this one, like click to swipe up for a surprise, interact with that ad, and then unlock the call to action, which allows that user to take some form of action. So it really encourages some form of interaction, some form of participation in the ad. So I think that's quite a powerful new advertising format that's now live. Another advertising format, which I think also is quite a smart thing to do, is that the search function within TikTok is highly trafficked, as you could expect. So when people are searching for skincare routine, as is the case in this instance, being able to sponsor those search ads, basically exactly like Google PPC, right? Really powerful, because increasingly, as we know, as we report in many other these updates, that increasingly people are conducting their research and their brand research on social increasingly, and that's at a point right now, still Google is the place that people would go to the majority of times to do brand research, but you see the share that social is taken in terms of brand research getting increasingly large. And especially if you look at the younger generation, they won't turn to Google first, they'll turn to social first. So advertising here is going to be very powerful. YouTube, this is actually possibly my favorite update from everything we've said so far. This is a new channel analytics. So here in analytics on YouTube, we can go to this research tab here, and we can look at searches across YouTube. So there's other research tools out there that I often talk about, like Keyword Strategy Tool, for example. There's lots of things like that, but now this has been embedded into YouTube. So now we can look at whatever category we're in, let's just say content marketing for ease. Then we can look at the popularity of how many people are coming to YouTube to ask questions around that category. But the real thing, the golden nugget here, is that YouTube will tell you where there's a content gap. So the content gap, as they define it, is where the number of searches outweigh the content that currently serves the need of that search. So basically, it will give you a hint as to what you need to be able to create to be able to serve the unmet need of an audience. And as a content marketer, as someone that's trying to build strategies and plans, that is gold dust. So if only all the rest of the platforms would tell us that level of information. So definitely go away and have a look at that. For me, there are two channels that I always think should really be either a strong consideration or part of a strategy, and that they are YouTube and TikTok. YouTube, because increasingly they're going into social. We know their competitor to TikTok, which is YouTube Shorts. They're focusing more on promoting those. There's already over 5 trillion views of YouTube Shorts, so it's not going anywhere. Don't forget, YouTube have 2.5 billion monthly active users, so second only to Facebook in terms of their market presence. So yeah, for me, it seems like a no-brainer to do. And currently, if I'm being honest, you can get away with repurposing your reels on that's not your reels, well, your reels or your TikToks on there, so that they're not down-ranking non-original content like Instagram are, for example. So we can shortcut it a little bit if we want to. Remixing has also come to Shorts. Like I said last month and the month before, remixing I see as becoming like the new benchmark for what engagement is. So more than likes and comments. And I don't think that's the case today, but I see it being the case moving forward, where we as content creators will need to think about how people will remix our content into new versions of that. But also it lowers the barrier to entry for us as content creators to think about how can we create content doing a take on someone else's content as well. So here on YouTube, so this is live now, find a video that you like, press the create button, and that will allow you to either take a snippet of the sound or a cut of a particular video and then do your own take on that. And it embeds the cut in there, and it says where that cut's come from as well. So by default, it's crediting the original creator of that. So you don't need to worry about that bit. So quite nice when we go onto YouTube, you might want to look at, you combine that with the search research that we were just talking about. Look at some of the popular YouTube videos in your category and think, oh, right, well, I can just do a remix of that and do my own take on that, or put my own narrative to it. I think that can be super powerful with lowering the barrier to getting content out there for us and being able to create some really engaging content and some good relationships with those that we're creating those remixes from. Snapchat, really simple one, integration with YouTube. So if we're on a YouTube video and want to share it and we're on Snapchat, we can just simply embed the video that we want to promote as a sticker on Snapchat, be that on our Snapchat stories, or on like Snapchat's kind of alternative to TikTok, which is called Spotlight. And then finally, WhatsApp, which is, oh, no, there isn't finally, there's one more after this. WhatsApp are launching communities, which might seem a bit strange considering, it's owned by Meta, which also has Facebook groups. The way they're differentiating WhatsApp communities versus Facebook groups is that WhatsApp communities is all focused around people that you know, whereas Facebook groups is often those that you don't. Communities will not be discoverable publicly, so people can only be invited to join as well. So I'm sure we all got far too many WhatsApp groups that we already have. So ultimately, this extends into kind of formalizing those WhatsApp groups into those communities. And Spotify, since they bought a podcast platform called Anchor, they've been going even bigger into podcasts. We know that a huge proportion, I think the second largest proportion of podcasts are listened to on Spotify, and now they're adding video podcasts to that. So if we're already filming our podcasts alongside with recording the audio, it can be another way to display the video side to that too. I'm a bit skeptical, if I'm honest, as to how many people go to Spotify to now want to consume content that is video, not audio. So, I might be proven wrong on that one. But anyway, we made it. We're at the end. 6 kind of core takeaways before we go to kind of any questions and any points that we want to finish off with. But 6 takeaways. TikTok's growth is continuing. Users, features, monetization, thinking about that they're going to be 25% of the social media market by 2024. It's only going one way. As I said, given YouTube's demographics, the focus on shorts, the focus on audience research and stuff, YouTube is an attractive component of the strategy. I definitely implore anyone to consider it if they haven't already. Instagram will continually focus on Reels. Yeah, not exactly new use that one, but really I can't overstate the fact that Instagram just want you creating Reels, and it's feeling increasingly pressurized that Reels or Insta wants to push you to create Reels. Advertising formats, more opportunities for brands like these interactive ads, for example, like we've seen those embedded ads on Reels as well. So new formats mean new opportunities. Monetization tools, like we've seen on TikTok and also we've seen on Reels as well. More opportunities for creators, more creators making money on the platform, create new audiences, and those creators and their communities give us more opportunity with whom we can work with as brands. And as per usual, think about some of the posting time learnings we talked about here, along with your own data, the hashtag volume, and the right platform mix given the demographics you're trying to target. And take all of that knowledge and think about how you might want to, maybe it reinforces your strategy and maybe it continues you optimizing some of your plans. But with that, I'm going to stop talking. There we go. You made it. Congrats.
We did it. I answered a fair number of the questions in the chat because they were specific around the LinkedIn and the newsletters and the creator mode. So hopefully you've picked up those links in the chat if you were looking for those questions. But there's one left, Andy, because it relates to something that was on one of your LinkedIn weekly updates around micro videos and what's the optimum video length for micro videos versus normal videos, specifically for Instagram.
Yes. I was like, micro videos, what are you talking about? Yes, it's gonna be, I would say probably 1 to 2 seconds. And just for anyone that's not familiar with the context of this, what we're talking about here is there is still good growth on Instagram. It's a bit of a hack. Don't like hacks personally, but it is a hack, to be clear. whereby quite often people are taking their single image, creating that into a video file, 1-2 seconds, and basically it just needs to loop fast, because then it gets 750,000 views very quickly. Instagram goes, oh wow, that video is popular, and then promotes it in the algorithm. We're still seeing that type of content is working well. That loophole will be closed at some point. But yeah, if you're posting single images on Instagram and you want to drive additional reach, I would recommend experimenting with that. Just going on to whatever creative tool you use, just to change. I mean, you could do something as easy as like put your phone on a picture that you've got on your laptop, film it for 2 seconds, and then post that to Insta. You'll get better reach than you would on your single image. I feel dead inside recommending that as a strategy, but it is, if it's working, I'm reporting it. So there you go.
And people are agreeing, and we've got messages about, again, length of video. And just one more for you, I'll let you answer this one. What advice would you give for reels that aren't achieving strong engagement?
Very good question. Take them and put them on TikTok.
Yeah, or if it's come from TikTok originally, it'll be probably downgraded because it's not original content. So I think it's actually about answering that question related to anything that's not achieving the engagement that you're looking for. Go back to the plan. Who's your audience? What do they need to know? What's your call to action? Is the imagery right for them? Is the wording right for them? Go back to the basics rather than perhaps worrying too much about the format you're using, and go through that checklist and then look at the details of that format would be my take.
Exactly. Always go back to the story first, irrespective of channel. Even though I spend a lot of time in this chat talking about, it should be on TikTok or Reels or whatever. The fact is, a channel won't make much difference, because if the story's weak, it'll be weak on any platform. Not saying yours is in particular, but just make sure that story's strong and you believe that is genuinely good content, and then you can choose the right place to promote that. But it's the joy of experimentation. And just as a reminder, what I've actually just put a random thing on everyone's screen. That's the social summit that Luann referenced earlier. So that is in line with Social Media Day on the 30th of June, I think. So a free social summit, of which we'll be doing a kind of big quarterly roundup of everything that's happened in the world of social, along with all of the other wonderful things Luann is planning. Usually I share the link to next week or next month at this point, but look out on your emails for that one, because we're changing the link because of we'll be changing the platform, and boring stuff you don't need to know about, but ultimately, it's the next chapter with Adobe, so changing a little bit.
But you can find us both on LinkedIn, and a huge thank you for all the chat that goes on during these sessions. I know that there's a number of you that turn up most months and have been listening to us for several months and keep going in the chat and supporting each other in there as well. So a huge thank you. Follow us both on LinkedIn, and we will keep sharing updates.
Thanks everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.